Want to thank our sponsor, Parati's Quality Meats, located in Cranford, New Jersey, serving customers all over New Jersey for the past 50 years. Welcome, everyone, to another edition of Coach's Talk, presented by the Shore Football Report. You know who I am. And today we have a very, very special guest, a longtime head football coach, not only in the Shore Conference, but also in South Jersey. And I'm very proud to have the head football coach of Southern Regional High School, Coach Donohue Sr. Coach, thanks for coming on the show today.
Thanks for having me.
Awesome, Coach. Man, I tell you what, did a lot of research on you the other day, called a lot of my buddies that are longtime assistant coaches and former head coaches in South Jersey, and I wanted to know more stuff about you from South Jersey stuff, and they all said the same stuff, basically. They really did. So I had to throw out my pen, and all the respect in the world. Not only you as a head football coach, because we know you're a Hall of Fame head football coach, we're gonna talk about later, but as a person, guidance, people look for advice from you from all phases of life, and you really affected a lot of people down in South Jersey, and I think you should be very proud of that.
Thank you, and they affected me too.
Hopefully good, because the guys I'm talking about, Tony DeRosa, Coach Callahan, I can tell you stuff about them too.
Definitely.
Awesome, Coach. Let me introduce you and talk about your summary of your career. And my pen ran out of ink with all the stuff I was writing down. Very, very impressive stuff, Coach. And I'm real excited to talk about it. This is your 48th football season as a football coach. And that's amazing because to me, you're like a young rookie. You have so much energy. It's amazing. When I see you from a distance and see you and then hear about you in the offseason, because you're one of the best coaches in the offseason in the weight room, and you just have so much energy every single season. Did you have more energy when you first started, or it's always the same?
I think a lot. I think we're all different at that point. I think our energy changes as we get older, and we save it a little bit more and distribute it a little bit more different than we did in the beginning. I think that's the key. Once you run out of the energy to do the off season, and put the time in the off season, whether that's clinicking or weight room or running or whatever it happens to be, then it's time for you to get out.
It's safe to say that these kids probably bring the best out of you, right?
Yeah, they do, because they work hard. You know, we all have kids that work hard, and if you work them hard, they work hard.
Yeah, you're right, Coach. All right, let me keep going here. So in your 47-year history, you have 264 career wins, which is top 10 as active head football coaches in New Jersey. That's amazing, Coach. And 264 plus, something to be real proud about. And every community is celebrating that because you have so many wins in so many different places. In those 47 years, you take 19 teams to state playoffs. 6 times you've been to the state finals. You have 2 state championships and 8 division titles. Now, I couldn't even write down how many Coaches of the Year awards you have because it was way too many. I couldn't research all that stuff. But here's an amazing stat, and I love this, that 3 different times you've been inducted to the Hall of Fame. In South Jersey coaches inducted you. The Shore Conference coaches inducted you, and the state of New Jersey inducted you 3 different times. That is quite amazing, Coach. How do you feel about those honors?
Well, I mean, I've always been a believer in the Coach of the Year. I get what that means. I think that means as much Team of the Year or whatever as anything else. Okay, Staff of the Year, whatever. I've always believed the Coach of the Year is the guy that held his program together when it was falling apart during the season. You know, to me, they're the guys that oftentimes don't have the same opportunities to have the personnel to show what they can do and to have a successful season, et cetera. And a lot of times those guys. So I've always looked at Coach of the Year as that guy that held his program together, had a losing streak, fought his way out, that type of thing, and send that guy a note and tell him how, what a great season was. So anytime you get a individual award in a team sport, it's humbling.
Yeah, well, I mean, you're right. But what a career it has been and still is. The other thing that coaches have told me, where you were the first head football coach in South Jersey history to lead four different schools to sectional finals. That's amazing to do that, because you know how hard it is just to get there. You did it in four different places, Coach.
Yep. Yeah, and again, good staff, good players. I've been very blessed. Every place I've been is the support of the administration and the communities. I have never been in a place that lacked those things, and you know how important they are in being successful. When you have all those people lined up behind you, it's a lot easier to win than it is if you're fighting them as well as an opponent every week.
And every one of those programs is a fan of you when you go to the next program. That says a lot about you. There's no ill feelings. They're just big fans for you, and your fan base just keeps growing. So that says a lot about you and how you've run your programs through the years. Coach, I just want to run down quickly with the individual schools, and then I'm going to get you talking the process. Southern Regional, this is your 24th year. And Coach, me being an alumni at Southern Regional, and you replaced my cousin, Larry Sheen, I've been there and seen it, Southern Regional. And what you have done at Southern Regional is remarkable. It really is. And I've said this to you throughout the years, what you had to endure. You got there in 1998. And you came over, took over a program that inherited. It was a regional school, so you had Waretown, you had Barnegat, you have Stafford, you have Long Beach Island. They all come together in the middle school, and then you got to get them together and mold them into a football team. Well, 8 years later, Barnegat separated, and you didn't know that. I didn't know that. It just kind of happened pretty quickly. So when you went there in your interview, you probably never foreseen anything like that happening, right? A district splitting up like that.
No.
And what you did, though, is not only did you hold the fort down, you brought them to even higher levels without Barnegat. And that is definitely a great thing that you and your staff had did. And we'll talk more about that. So one thing that we talked about is that for years, Ocean County football was built around Tom's River and brick. I'll say it because that's honestly true. And for years, Southern was always, hey, we got football here too. When I was there playing and when I was there coaching. But now that you're there, I mean, everybody knows now there's football down in southern part of Ocean County. And I'm proud to say that, for a lot of years, Barnegat and Southern kind of moved on and kind of held our own in terms of Ocean County and Shore Conference and state. And it's amazing that we all split up and there's good football now in Ocean County.
Yeah, I think a big part of it, and I don't know how you feel, but I felt a big part of it was when Barnegat separated, they always had a large number of players that were involved in the program, so they kind of numbers stayed high, and I think some Barnegat kids came out for the team that wouldn't have come out for the team if it was still a Southern Regional, and the same way here. I think because there was so many freshmen involved every year, a lot of kids that were on the fence were afraid to give it a chance, and you lost those kids to another sport or maybe no sport.
Yeah.
And once we separated, our numbers stabilized, your numbers stabilized, and both programs were able to grow. I think we all got kids out that might not have come out the other way. If the numbers had stayed large, they might have, like I said, not cross the fence and come into it. But certainly, and neither school cried about the situation or any of that kind of stuff. There was no hard feelings. Life went on. A lot more kids were playing football, so I think everybody was happy.
More opportunities, right?
Yeah.
Just for everybody.
No
You're
question.
Right. You're right. I mean, through the years, I have alumni tell me, could you imagine if Barnegat players were still at Southern? They go, what that team would look like and all that. But you're right. Everybody's roles would be different. It would have been pretty neat to see what your numbers would have been like in terms of enrollment in your school and amount of players you had on the team and all that. But, everybody survived. And
we did.
More opportunities.
And the program survived and more kids are playing. And I think it's worked out. It's worked out for everybody.
Yeah, that's awesome, Coach. That's great. So at Southern Regional, you have 100. If you take your career and you cut it in half, to me, Coach, that's 2 Hall of Fame careers. It's just amazing. I'm in awe of just speaking about all these accomplishments. Great. You have 127 wins at Southern Regional. but you also coached another 20 something plus years somewhere else and still got over 100 something wins. That's coach. That is amazing. And you never get sick of wins, right? Never.
No. And I think the other thing is, when you go into programs, a lot of times there's that learning curve that you have, as a coach, you have to be willing to fight through, because when you change your program and you change work habits and all the kind of things and a different system coming in, oftentimes it takes a little bit of time to get it where you want it, and you get some losses that that your team is just not ready for some of those opponents that are on your schedule, and it takes you a little time to catch up. And I think if you want to make a reference, it's kind of like a Vanderbilt in the SEC. Mm-hmm. They keep trying to change, but every time they change, every 3 or 4 years, there's a new coach, there's a new staff, mm-hmm. There's all kinds of new stuff going in, and they can just never fight through, the competition. So once you're in the school and you can build a little bit of continuity and get classes to pass through, I think you have a better chance of winning.
Yeah, you took Southern to new levels they never experienced before. Before they had one division title, you got 3 of them. State playoffs, 9 times you've taken your teams to state playoffs, and of course, you got to add the COVID. If you had the COVID, that would have been another year too. Played in the state finals 2 times. Again, the community rallied around all this excitement. They loved it. They've been waiting for this for years, and it isn't something that just happened once in a blue moon. This is the expectations every year at Southern Regional. You created expectations where we want to get to be the same that we were last year and the other year. So you don't differentiate any of your goals, right, with your program?
No, I don't think so. And I think we're in a school district that has high standards and high expectations in everything we do. So, it's all part of how we do things here, how we approach things from the classroom, extracurricular, everything else. Is just the way we get things done. And I think it's the way it should be done. Your expectations always should be high. And then you have to apply the work ethic to that to make it, to make it work.
Yeah. Now the other stops you had, I'll run right through this. Buna, is it Buna or Buena?
Yeah. Most people pronounce it Buna. Down there, they pronounce it Buena.
Wow, you can pronounce it 2 different ways. That's
you're okay either way.
Well, at Buna High School, you were there for 12 years, 86 to 97, 69 wins, a smaller school, like a Barnegat, a Group 2. Mm-hmm. You had 2 division titles, 5 state playoff times. You went there, and you won a state championship in 1988. Didn't you have a really good fullback back then?
We had a lot of good football players on that team. If I told you what was on that football team, people wouldn't believe. We had on the offensive line, we had a kid go to Notre Dame, tight end went to Bucknell. We had a tackle that went to Rutgers, a tackle that went to the West Point. Our quarterback went to Northeastern. Our fullback went to West Virginia, and both running backs, Nick Saban recruited to Toledo.
That's awesome.
He took them both. So we were loaded with talent, and we were running the right offense. We were in the wishbone at that time, mm-hmm. And everything just worked out. It was a phenomenal year. We didn't have injuries or anything else went wrong, and we got to win it all.
That's great. So you were there for 12 years. Before that, you were for 5 years at Haddon Heights, another Group 2. What is that, like 35 minutes away from Buna?
I would say we were living in Hamilton at the time. It's crazy. If you left the house at 6:30 in the morning, it was 40 minutes away. If you left the house at 7 o'clock, it was an hour and 10 minutes away. So it just depended on that. You had to, work yourself around the traffic, because there wasn't a way to get there with Philly traffic.
Right.
That was easy. So I would say on a normal day, it was about 40 or 45 minutes away.
That's great. And you were there for 5 years, like I said. 26 more wins were there. You had one state playoff, but that state playoff, you went to the championship game and you won. Back in 1985, you won the South Jersey Group 2, your first of your second state titles, right?
No, we lost the final to Hamilton that year. We won a state title at St. Joe and one at Buna.
Oh, my bad.
Yeah, so that's
But you were in the state finals
Yeah,
there. Yeah.
we got the final. We got the final and lost to Hamilton High School.
Great. And that takes us to the school that you just talked about. St. Joe's Hamilton for 7 years, 44 more wins, 3 division titles, 4 playoff appearances, and you won your state championship there.
Yeah, and that was the old system, but yeah, we got it 70, 77, and then 3 years in a row we ran into Bishop Eustace, which was an outstanding program at that time, and got to either the semifinal or the final and lost to them 3 years in a row.
Coach, now here's my best part of this show is the process. So now I want to hear, and so does everybody else wants to hear, how did you start your athletic days and end up to where you're at? Because you know as well as I know that you don't snap your finger and become a head football coach. Everything you did was like putting money in the bank, and you cashed in at the right time to get to Southern Regional. It just happened to be there. So please tell us all your stops and tell us whatever you want about your stops, because you have a lot of great memories of where you're at, a lot of success. But this is your time now to talk about your process.
Okay, I'm going to start it with an uncle that I had, Uncle George Baker, who drugged me around the high school football game starting in 1955. I grew up in suburban Philadelphia. There was 2 conferences at that time. There was a Suburban 1 and a Suburban 2. Suburban 2 was the small schools. They played at 10 o'clock in the morning. It was Yaden, Lansdowne, Collingdale, Sherrin Hill, Clifton Heights. And then the big schools were Ridley and Haverford and Upper Darby and Springfield High School. They played in the afternoon, and the Catholic schools played on Sunday. And my uncle was a high school football junkie. So we would start off Saturday morning at a Suburban 2 game, go to Suburban 1 game, and then Sunday see a Catholic League game in Philly. Mm-hmm. And I just, from the time I was 6 years old onward, not onward, but until I was in 8th grade, okay, my uncle and I spent an awful lot of time together. And I followed football, followed it closely, dreamed about it all day in school, daydreamed constantly. Never thought about coaching, obviously, at that time. But I have a bunch of programs from the middle 50s and stuff like that, and I remember those games and those times with him very much. When I got to the end of the grammar school area, we had a weighted football league that was boys clubs, and then I went to Catholic grammar school, so all the Catholic grammar schools had tackle football teams. So from 7th and 8th grade, I played on 2 teams. We would practice after school with the school team and play on Saturday, and the boys club team practiced twice a week and played on Sunday. So that's where my first football experience came in. During that time, played a lot of different positions, which was good. Went to Monsignor Bonner High School as a freshman. After freshman year, Cardinal O'Hara opened, and I decided to go to Cardinal O'Hara. And I think that's where a lot of the things that have helped me as I look back on my life in football happened at O'Hara. So when I was at O'Hara, I know what it felt like to make a roster. I know what it felt like to be cut. I know what it felt like to make a travel list. I knew what it felt like not to make a travel list. I knew what it was like to give part of your summer up for training. And believe it or not, back in those days, we were doing a lot of strength training with isometric contractions, and what was called an exergenie was ropes in a cylinder. And we had a strength program back when I was in high school. Wow. A lot of those things I got to experience in high school, which I think have helped me a lot as a coach. Left O'Hara, ended up at Glassboro State, which is now Rowan University. And I have to say the love of football was constant for me. But the thing that really turned me to coaching was the experience with Coach Wacker at Glassboro State. He had the ability to make the last guy on the roster feel like it was most important. Mm-hmm. really addressed us. There wasn't physical education at Glassboro State until 1968, I think, was the first class that had physical education. So obviously, he had restarted the football program there from scratch. There was about a 10-year period that they had dropped it.
Really?
Yeah, they dropped it. I don't want to say it was in connection at the time of the Korean War, but I think it was.
Oh, wow.
Glassboro State at that time, in the early 50s, was really an elementary school college. It wasn't for anybody but elementary school teachers. So he took the program off, and obviously a lot of men were not involved in elementary school teaching.
Mm-hmm.
So they struggled for a while. And then they got the phys ed program in and got to bring phys ed teachers in. His staff increased. We were very well coached. We were treated very well. I think he made an impression because he said, if you're a physical education teacher, one of your responsibilities is coaching. Don't just use the coaching to get tenure or to get yourself in there. You got to make a life commitment to it. And as I started to say before, he had the ability to make you feel important and make you feel part of the team, regardless of where you were in the depth chart. And that's where I think I really fell in love with the coaching. I became a student of the game at that point. And even though we were two platoon and I was on the defensive side, I studied the playbook. I paid attention to things. And I started my love to change from watching the game played to some of the strategy and things like that went along with it.
Mm-hmm.
I had 1 year left to play, which would have been the 1971 season. We were married, Vi and I were married in college, and Chuck was born in 71. Had a year to go, and a boyhood friend of mine's brother, Jimmy Gallagher, was assistant. He was kind of like a big brother to me growing up. Tommy Gallagher's younger brother was my age, and we were together. He was about 6 years older than me. But he was at Holy Spirit at the time. St. Joe needed a coach in Hamilton and hired Jimmy. I was working on for Pittsburgh Des Moines Steel Company at the time down in Washington, D.C.
How old were you, Coach, then?
I'm going to say at that point I was 21. Wow. 22. So I had 1 year left. I took a job with I thought was going to be a summer job with Pittsburgh Des Moines, and then Chuck was born at the end of July, and about a week later, Jim got the job at St. Joe's, and he calls me up and he asked me if I want to coach. I did want to play one more year, but when he told me there was going to be a phys ed opening in January, okay, I jumped on that. So I started coaching with Jimmy in 71. I was an assistant with him, which was a tremendous experience because he was a solid fundamental football coach. I was with him for 3 years. Jimmy left and went to Cape May. I wanted to go to Cape May with Jim, but I wasn't certified. And back in those days, there was such a large number of teachers out there that, there was no special certifications and all that kind of stuff. So I couldn't go to Cape May with them, and St. Joe offered me the job. I was 24 at that time, and looking back, there's no way at 24 you're ready to do that job. Okay? I mean, there just is no way that you're ready to do that job. You don't have the knowledge, the background, or anything else to do it.
Coach, before you go on, so you're 24 years old. If somebody told you and said you're going to coach for 48 more years, would you bet? What would you bet on that one?
I mean, I would have been glad I was going to be living for 48 more years. I'll tell you that.
Yeah, right. Knock on wood.
I just don't. I don't even think I thought that way. You're worried about today and getting through today and cleaning up all the mistakes that you made during the day that you're going to have to straighten out the next. Because, like I say, it that was quite an experience at that age, and it was so exciting to be a coach, to be a head coach, to have the responsibility.
Mm-hmm.
But I had to rely on an awful lot of people back in those days too, to help me through it and run things by him. Jimmy was one of them. There was plenty of guys, back in those days that helped me out. So I was at St. Joe for 7. Went to Haddon Heights for 5.
Mm-hmm.
That was my first public school experience.
Why did you leave? What made you leave, though, from St. Joe's to go to Haddon Heights?
Actually, the truth of the matter was I needed to get into public school, just for the benefits of that and the
Mm-hmm.
salary and all that. Our family was starting to grow, and there was a situation. There was a situation that I had actually turned the Haddon Heights job down. I had applied for some other high school jobs and didn't get them. Haddon Heights had offered me the job. I turned it down, rethought about it over a week, and recontacted them, and they hired me. And it was a great experience because there was good coaches in the Cape Atlantic League at that time, but everybody was kind of doing the same thing. So they were either an I team or a wing T team.
Mm-hmm.
And I went to Haddon Heights, and first year got our butts kicked because we were facing Tommy Brown and Joe Bendorf, and Jim had his program going at Sterling, and
Mm-hmm.
there was such Tom Curley at Haddon Township. These were really good football coaches. Larry Ginsburg at Woodbury, and you were facing Wishbone and Split Back Veer and all kinds of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So that's really where the grind of the off season and clinicing really kicked in for me, because we had to learn so much football in the off season. So those 5 years were invaluable. I loved Haddon Heights. I loved the way the school was run. I liked our blend of athletes. Had tremendous support there. But we went from during that 5-year period, we went from 1 to 3 kids. And the demand to be at home, a little bit closer to home, the Buna job opened. We were living in Hamilton. It was only 10 minutes away, and applied for it and got it.
Mm-hmm.
And it just made it a lot easier. I was able to do a little bit more at home than I would have been at Haddon Heights. And the Buna thing took off. We hit a vein of athletes there that was outstanding. As I mentioned to you before, where some of those kids went to. And it was another place I was really happy to be there. I had applied to Southern in the past, didn't get the job, and then reapplied again because I always wanted to try a bigger school out.
Mm-hmm.
And see what it was like. And the old adage of bigger school, bigger problems, and all that kind of stuff, wasn't necessarily true for me. It was a smooth transition. I liked it here very much from the very beginning. Again, got great support, and to say I expected to be here 20 years, no.
Yeah.
But I've been blessed. My health has been good. We all know that can change any day.
Yeah.
But my health's been good to this point, and I've been able to maintain an energy level and a desire to continue to learn this game of football. I think you can identify with what I'm saying. With you staying out of coaching for this year, when the off season comes, you're going to have to clinic as hard as you ever did when you were coaching, because this game can get away from you so fast. If you're not clinic and working in the off season. We have great weight facilities here. We have outstanding guys that work in the weight room, whether it's in season or out of season. We have a good strength program during the school year, during phys ed. We're able to make our kids stronger,
Mm-hmm.
and hopefully I can stay healthy a couple more years, and we'll see where this thing goes from here.
Now, how's it working with your athletic director? You kind of knew him for a couple years before Southern Regional too, right? Coach Donohue Jr., huh?
Yeah, I got to be truthful on this one. I've said this before, and I don't think people realize it, but Chuck was hired before I was hired.
Mm-hmm.
Technically, the staff, there was a bunch of the new high school had opened, and Southern had hired an awful lot of new teachers. I want to say almost 30 new teachers when they opened the 11-12 building. So we had 3 assistant coaches that applied for jobs. They all actually got approved before I got approved.
Wow.
Just because they were special ed teachers and history and some math and some other things, and they had the teaching openings to hire those guys. And I guess we're moving around in the phys ed department before they could hire me. But it's been good. Chuck's been with me from the time he was really small. I drug him around everywhere I could get him out of the house and give my wife a break. So he came with me all over the place. He was always around sports. Would have never named him Chuck if I knew we were going to work together, because it creates mass confusion. I never had that plan, but he always wanted to be an athletic director. He talked about it from the time he was in high school, and he had a love for it. He experienced a lot of good things at Egg Harbor Township. He worked for a lot of good people. Got to coach in a lot of different areas, both boys and girls sports, and then applied to Southern, was hired here, and was on our staff for a couple years, and then applied for the AD job when Kim went up to the state level, and it's been good. Our relationship is his job is to make my job easier, and my job is to make his job easier, as you know, as an AD.
Yeah.
And we've been able to do those things, run the program. If I need his help, I get it. If he needs my help, I get it. We're able to separate the two things. We've had disagreements over certain things, just like any coach and AD would happen. But at the end of the day, we've been able to settle it, and I think the relationship has been as good as it can be.
Coach, it's always great as a head, and I'm learning this, is when another assistant coach branches off to get what they want. I just had another former assistant football coach be named the principal of our middle school, and then when guys leave to be head coaches. So that is great, when somebody elevates to athletic director, and also it being your son. And Coach Donohue is incredible with promoting all the sports at Southern Regional, not just football. Yeah. He's all invested in the community, and again, like yourself, has a great reputation throughout the whole Southern Regional community.
Yeah, and I think, Rob, that's what he's supposed to do. I think a lot of times when you ask about Hall of Fame and things like that, we're doing the things we're hired to do and the things we're supposed to do. And, he does a really good job at it. How hard home life is on children and the wife. He has a wife that understands, that gets it. I was fortunate enough to have the same. You're the same. We can't last in this business because our time is a lot of times not ours. A lot of times our time goes to other kids and other needs that you have. And, when your staff members and the kids you coach start to excel and start to go places, it makes you feel good, because we know the game of football teaches so many good characteristics and builds characteristics in people that are going to carry for the rest of their days.
But as a coach and administrator, there's no end point to your job description, like recruiting, this and that. It's not just a punch in, punch out. So that's why you guys got the great reputation, because you're kind of extending yourself all hours of the day and all throughout the year, and that's where people like to see that type of stuff.
Yeah, I agree with that, and I think that's all part of our job.
That's great, Coach. Coach, this was awesome. I love this part. Listening to hear you talk about all your steps, very impressive. And we're going to talk a lot more later on in this interview. But thank you for talking about the process.
Oh, you're welcome. Thank you.
All right, Coach. We're going to talk COVID from last year. I'm going to just gently put this down this time. But you being a coach for this is your 48th year, you never were prepared for what happened last year. Never. And us head football coaches, we have to be so flexible in everything we do. You know that as well as I do. COVID season happened. I want to hear something positive in your football program that you learned as an experienced head football coach dealing with the issues of COVID.
I think the biggest thing was the use of the Google Classroom. For us, I mean, we had never done a whole lot. We had the huddle and all those kind of things, and we would get on huddle with with an assistant coach, and I'd be talking to Matt or somebody looking at something on the screen. But once we started to incorporate the Google Classroom, it allowed us our Saturday film sessions. We didn't have to bring the kids to school. Okay, and of course that was a big thing at the time. Mm-hmm. So we would still do our films on Saturday morning, an hour in offense, an hour in defense. Have the whole coaching staff there, dissecting every play and whatever corrections had to be made, and then we would kick it in on Sunday night. So we were actually ahead of where we were ever before, because Sundays were work days for the staff, but off days for the kids. Mm-hmm. And we would get them on there at 7 o'clock at night, and we would preview our opponent at 7 o'clock. And then the next day, that was all done. That part of it was done. So I think the use of Google, we had a couple classroom meetings during the off season until we got going, and we plan on doing the same thing this year. So I don't think we would be using that the same way if it hadn't been for COVID. And I think the other thing is how much responsibility went on the players that they did. We all know what we had to do as adults, but a lot of the players had to take on a responsibility that they didn't before, of being careful and not infecting the team and causing, us not to be able to play. We were fortunate to be able to play all 9 games last year. A lot of teams didn't do that not because of something they didn't do, but because of maybe what happened in an opponent's school. We didn't have to deal with those things. So I think the kids took a lot more responsibility for getting through the season than they would have in a normal season.
Yeah, you're right, Coach. Google Classroom, I mean, business guys used it. We never did. So we had to learn on the run, because we had to be one step ahead of the players.
Yep.
It's amazing. I have an 11-year-old daughter. She taught me everything. I didn't know how to turn things on and this and that. And that was.
Well, I'm just coming on. I mean, I'm just getting weaned off the flip phone. So, for me to go to that Google Classroom thing was a traumatic experience. I would most of the time ended up going to Chuck's house and doing it at his house. So I didn't miss the meeting that I called.
They're asking us for Gmail accounts, and I'm like, oh my God! A couple months ago, I never had these things. But with phone calls during the season, if I would call you, you call me, you call somebody else, everybody got nervous when that phone rang, because they didn't realize if it was going to be a bad call or a good call with the COVID at all.
That's right, and we all had bad calls during that time for some reason or another.
Yeah, I mean, when I stepped down at Barnegat, I told my AD I have to do this before, and the reason for that was we already had 2 games prior to it canceled with COVID, and the rumor was it was coming back down to Ocean County. I didn't know if it was going to be the last time I ever saw the kids, and I didn't want to do it. I didn't want to talk to my program on Google. I didn't think I wanted to do that, but it changed everybody's lives. But I'm real proud of all the football programs, and not only the Shore Conference in New Jersey, because my buddies in Virginia didn't even play, Coach. They just done. They just got done playing in the spring, and now they're playing again in the fall. So we were very fortunate to put a product out there, and knock on wood, we thought we lost something, and we kind of love the sport probably a little bit more.
Oh, absolutely.
With COVID, right?
Absolutely, because the fear of not having it was hard to deal with. That possibility was there because kids had put so much time in, themselves, and they, I think what really got us was the spring before, and we saw those seniors lose their senior year. Even if we weren't coaching a sport, just to see some of those athletes and, waiting for your senior year to play and have it taken away by something that you really had no control over, I think was very sobering and helped us get through our football season because the kids saw that too.
I told our staff, I said, whoever adjusts the quickest, meaning coaching staffs, with their programs during this COVID, with learning how to use the social media, the Google, is going to have the best season.
Yeah,
And I thought that the teams that were most prepared with doing their practices online, it came, the kids liked it. The kids were just very appreciative.
They did too, because they're used to the phone. They're used to hanging out on the phone. They're used to pushing those buttons. So I think it fit them, even though it was more difficult for us. I think it fit their lifestyle a lot better than it fit ours.
How was the reaction of the players and coaches the first day you were allowed to actually meet and practice? It had to be so joyful, huh?
Yeah, it was. I don't think there's any question about it. And, and I think that was also tempered by the fact that, hey, any day this should shut down. And you had to constantly tell them over and over again, your spacings and all the other things that you have to do. And, Southern went out of their way. We were allowed to lift all summer. They put tents up on the field, put storage containers outside where we could keep our weights in. They built sinks and water fountains and all kinds of stuff to help us to get through that time. So we had the support, and the kids saw that support, and I think it had an impact on them to take this thing a little bit more serious than they might have.
Well, that's a nice take on the COVID. Hopefully that's just this much of a span in your coaching career, and let's not ever talk about this thing again, Coach.
Yeah, right? I hope so. I hope you're right.
Okay, now, Coach D, I want you to talk a little bit about your 2021 Southern Regional High School schedule on the left, and on the right side, we will talk briefly about the newly formed Colonial Division that has a bunch of new faces on there to the right. Coach, take the floor to the left.
Okay, we open with East. Okay, Kyle's done a great job up there the last couple of years and establishing that program, reestablishing that program in his view and his way of doing things. He's done an outstanding job there. They always have good speed up there at East, so they always threaten you with tremendous speed. So we'll be aware of that one. Jackson, we belong playing Jackson. We haven't played them in the last couple of years. We've had tremendous games with them over the years. It's been an outstanding rivalry from the time it was a Thanksgiving Day game till it started to be played in the middle of the regular season. A load of respect for them up there. They're tough kids. They hit. We like playing them. I think they like playing us, and it's usually a good football game. Then we have an off date at that point, and then we play Homedale. It'll be the first time playing them since I've been here. They're an old-fashioned split-back veer team. They run it really well. It's been a long time since I coached against a split-back veer. So we've done a lot of studying in the off season regarding them and the problems that they cause you when you're not used to that particular type of offense. I had a harrowing experience at Haddon Heights playing Paulsboro, who ran the split back veer when Flipper Anderson was a quarterback. And that was, that taught you an awful lot because he was, obviously a long time wide receiver in the NFL, but a tremendous option quarterback. Then we go to Manalapan, which we haven't played in a couple of years. Dom Lepore, I have a lot of respect for as a coach. He loves the game of football. He was a defensive coordinator up there. Played against him a couple of years when he was a defensive coordinator up there, and now we're back playing them again. So that's always a challenging, opponent. Middletown South, we have not played again since I've been here. Obviously, one of the Shore's best programs over the last 20 years or so. Very, very, very fundamentally sound. Tackle well, block well, don't beat themselves. I have seen them play in person, scouting opponents. And again, we have a lot of respect for them, and that's going to be challenging. And then our traditional old rival, Turkey Day rival, is Central. So we play up there again. That's always a good football game. And Jared's going to do a great job up there. I'm happy for him. And I know he's working hard. I know he's doing a lot of the right things. He's going to build a good program there. So that should be exciting as part of our regular schedule.
Yeah, I'll agree to that. I saw him in the 7-on-7s at Barnegat. He's got a great command of his program, and the kids are really, really responding real well to him and his staff with
Yeah,
that. Coach,
I think he's going to have an outstanding career. I like him. He's real tough person, fair-minded person.
mm-hmm.
And again, he was weaned and brought up on football.
Yeah, that schedule there to the left, Coach. A lot of new faces. Yes, to the right, your division. Now, looking at your division just quickly, you're used to the A South. I mean, back in the day. Now you're playing teams that newly formed divisions. They have a formula, the committee, and they kind of lump everybody together. So you don't get handed your division to around December. And then we all scram to get a little info on each one of the teams. How do you feel about playing teams differently all the time instead of playing traditional games every year?
Well, I think that's it. I'm a traditionalist myself. Uh, I understand why they're doing what they're doing because of playoff formulas, et cetera, giving everybody the best chance and stuff. But I think what happened, and I'm sure you experienced there at Barnegat when you were head coach, when you started out in B South, and your alumni, your former players played that schedule, and now they come back and see you, or they come back to a game, they want to know what's going on. You know, you're not playing Brick anymore. You're not playing Brick Memorial. You're not playing all the Toms Rivers. There's a couple years we didn't play Jackson. So I'm from that standpoint, I like the rivalry concept. I like the advantage of winning a football game and having to beat a team next year that's trying to beat you because you beat them last year, or beating a team that beat you last year. I like that part of it. The thing I do like about this is having the opportunity to play schools that we haven't played before. So the Middletown South, I think, is going to be a challenge to our coaching staff. I think Homedale is going to be a challenge to our coaching staff because we have no feel for them. We feel a little bit more comfortable with Manalapan and Jackson and Central because we played them recently, and we know a little bit about them. But those other ones are completely, foreign to us. So it takes a lot of off-season work and checking internets out, trying to see highlights of games that they had and things like that, and pick up something about them. But so I'm kind of like being a traditionalist. If I had my say, I would say we'd still be in A South. Right. That's how I feel. And
I remember when I was playing at Southern Regional back in '87. Middletown South, who was undefeated, came to our stadium, and we weren't doing so well. I think we finished 3-6 for the season, and we upset them. And we were like, wow, we didn't know too much about them, but I know they came in a charter bus, not even a school bus. We're like, wow, what is this, right? But they have this mystique to them, Middletown South, and they're no different than they were back in the day. That kid Pitts played and all that, but you got Middletown South. Coach Antonucci does a great job year in, year out.
He does a great job. I like watching that football team play. When I would be scouting them, probably 3 or 4 times I got to see them in person. I just like the way they approach the game. I like the way they play the game of football there, and I'm looking forward to that ball game.
And Dominic Lapori, he's got them rolling this offseason, and 7-on-7s, they look really good. He's got a lot of returning starters, and Coach Mistretta, the reloading. He was here at Barnegat and won the whole 7-on-7, and those kids look like they're ready to have a big season for Jackson again. And Coach Rainey's at Homedale. He's got it going. He really has it going. He's playing a lot higher competition. He's a Group 3 school playing Group 4s and Group 5s, but the level of play the last couple of years have been tremendous over there in Homedale.
Yeah, I mean, it's not going to be easy. And Dom is at a school with high expectations, and he's a coach that was part of that and part of that last run. He's not going to let it fall off. That's not his style. He's a hard worker. He's a grinder, and every coach on that schedule, I would have to include in that category as a guy that clinics hard, works hard in the off season. And you're going to have to play well to win the football game.
Okay, Coach, now I'm going to have you talk about those guys that make head football coaches look great, and you know who that is. That's your assistant football coaches. They are the glue to your football program. and those kids on your football team really, really respond to them. Let's hear your 2021 Southern Regional football coaching staff.
Okay, I'm going to start at the lower end, and the reason I'm starting the lower end is we have an outstanding number of freshmen that have been working out all summer. We're in the low 40s. It's one of our biggest turnouts in years in our freshman program. Coach Beckett's the head freshman coach. He teaches in the middle school, which is great because he gets those kids for a couple months before they leave the middle school and come over to the high school. So he can kind of program them and get them ready for what they're getting into. Coach Herring, Coach Smith, and Joe Fleck, who's been a long-time freshman coach there for probably going on 30 years.
Yep.
That makes up the freshman staff. They start their season on the 16th. They're not going to play their Toms River East until later in the year. So they will be opening against Jackson sometime after Labor Day. But we're real happy with this freshman group, the effort that they're putting in the weight room. We had our camp a couple weeks ago. We had an outstanding turnout from them. So that's where I'm going to start. Coordinator-wise, Matt Abato played for us back in the late 90s. He's been a coordinator for a few years. Does an outstanding job with them, with the defense. We start our practice off with defense every day. We're a defensive football team, and we try and fit our offense into what's going on with our defense and how we're playing and how the game is being played out from a defensive standpoint. He does an outstanding job. Defensive staff is Dylan Larson, has the defensive ends and the defensive tackles. We're a 4-4 team right now. We used to be a 50. We got away from it a couple years ago. We're going to an even front. So Dylan Larson played for us and at Sacred Heart University. Coaches the line. Matt coaches the inside linebackers. The outside linebackers are coached by C.J. Temeldon, who played some football for us and also at Moravian College. He has the outside linebackers. Eric Shark is a safety coach, the defensive backs. Again, a player for us. Captain Rowan is a senior year. He's an all-league free safety up there at Rowan University. He's got a bright mind, and the combination of CJ, him, and Matt have done a lot of really good things in our defensive secondary and increased our ability and speed to get to the ball with some of the stunt packages they do. We go the offensive side of the ball. Some of them have two responsibilities. Matt does not. Dylan's the offensive line coach. When we get Chuck Jr. out there a couple of times a week, we split the offensive line into guards and centers and tackles and tight ends, and we get some work done with them, and we can get him out on the field. CJ has the running backs. Coach Shark has the wide receivers. Eric Fierro coaches the quarterbacks, and that's really the makeup of our staff. We have outstanding people that have helped us. We lost John Kazuba, who was retired. He was running SNN and was kind of our operations guy, the guy that we went to for any of the projects, fundraising, or anything that we needed outside the field. He was there for us. Steve Malega has been a photographer for us for years. Good man. Had some health issues recently, and we're looking forward to getting him back. But we have so many people around school that support us in the off season, from our administration who does things. I mean, there's just so many people. I have a list that's longer than our roster of people to support us. But that's the majority. That's the majority of our guys, and they're good football coaches. I think they know what we're doing at Southern. They know how we do things and handle things. When I ask them to do something, it's done. They work in the off season. Dylan does an outstanding job in the weight room. He had a good off season. His discus thrower won the state championship, and his shot putter won the state championship. He does a great job there. Eric does on the track. Shark's involved in volleyball and some other sports. Most of these guys are multiple sport coaches. So They're in contact with kids, and they do a great job with the kids.
Coach, I love the fact, just listening to your staff, they have something in common. They're Southern guys. They're Southern guys, and that goes a lot because they've been there, done it. They've listened to your voice from the other end when they were younger, and now they're echoing it back to the current Southern Rams football team right here.
Yeah, and along with that, I had Beck at Haddon Heights. Mm-hmm. So there was Beck was a GA up at Monmouth University when I got the job, and he applied down here and got a job, and he's at the right place for us right now with the freshmen because he's in that building with them. He knows them better than any of us do. He knows them before us, and then he still indoctrinates them into the high school program as a freshman coach.
Yeah, and he was a longtime varsity coach for you too. Now, the unique thing that you got, Coach, that we have too here is middle school football. Now, to me, that's been a blessing for our football program, having middle school football where those kids go to school, get monitored by your coaches, and then they play football after school. So they're prepping for the high school. How important is your middle school football program for your program?
Well, it's really good. I knew we were going to talk about this, so I saved that part of the staff for this time with Dan Abato, Nick Jinks, and Rob Barrett. Again, they were all football players here. They've taken over that middle school program. Jason Lister did a great job for years there, heading that program out. Stepped aside last year. Dan picked it up through a tough year because his first year as a head coach was the COVID year. So he picked it up at that at a rough time. But I think what it really helps is we want kids playing football like anything else, and they come up through the AYF and then into the middle school program. And I think it's, again, a transition time. It's practicing after school as opposed to practicing at night. The parents don't need to get them there and get them home and all those other kind of things that can keep some kids from playing. And I think it's been outstanding. I really do. I like the way we've adapted to it over the years. I think it's helped us over the years tremendously. And look forward to another good class out of there. The school's been very supportive of it. We started off in the Cape May League a long time ago, which was an unlimited league. The Pop Warner was still weight controlled at that point. And then when AYF went to unlimited weights, we started to work a lot of our seventh graders into their AYF because they got a chance to play football instead of just hold bags all the time.
Right.
And hard to get a lot of kids in a middle school game because it's only 32 minutes long, and half the time they're running the clock. So you just can't get subs into the football game. So I think one of the things that helped us a lot with our numbers, and one of the reasons our numbers are up, is because we have a lot more kids playing football and getting in games and things, and it's worked out for us.
Coach, the one thing I'm proud about, because I was not going to come to Barnegat because Dr. McMahon, who's the superintendent, and Lou Versillo, when I was at Lacey, would not allow me to go to Barnegat unless I was able to do middle school football, which never has been done unlimited weight before. So when we presented it, you were bringing back some memories of Cape May and all this. We presented our football program in the middle school without anybody to play. So we were going to get board approved, and I didn't have a place to play. So we were scrambling. We went to the Tri-County League.
Yeah, that was brutal.
And then we moved to the Cape, and then Southern came the next year, and then we had more people, and it became an Ocean County base right there. And that's been a blessing for us. It's really great for the not just the athletes, but in the classroom too, because now their head coaches and their assistant coaches are on them just like they would be in the high school. So they're kind of getting in that groove of high school.
I agree with you. Yeah. I think it's been a big help for us too, and for all the reasons that you're saying, and it gets them thinking about playing high school football for Southern.
Coach, we went to Wildwood. My wife takes me to Wildwood with her friends, and one of her sons has these cones. He's putting them, and he's doing a zigzag drill. What are you doing? He's going to be a seventh grader. I said, what are you doing? He goes, Coach Sharkey showed me my stance. I loved it. I mean, and then he had his back pedal, and he goes, Coach Donohue yelled and said, great job. Look at this guy work his feet. And it was a lasting impression. He goes, I'm playing for Southern Region. It was awesome. So he showed me the drills. We were doing it. And those kids, man, it's great because some of those kids are going to be future stars at Southern Regional, and it's great that they're in your program early and they're excited about your coaches and excited what you present. And they should be. And they should be. So that's what a program's all about.
I don't think a lot of that's changed. I mean, I remember as a kid, I remember who my heroes were. I remember it's funny because people ask, who's your favorite pro team? And I say the Jets. And everybody, of course, has something to say when you say the Jets. But the roots of that is Alan Atkinson. Because when I was a kid in grammar school, he was a linebacker on the city title team at Bonner in 1959. He leaves Bonner. He goes to Villanova. He's a small school All-American, and he's a linebacker for the Jets on the Super Bowl team. So that's why I'm a Jets fan. Besides that, my uncle took me to see the Titans play and all kinds of other things. But, those high school peers, I remember that. I remember the Padley brothers at Bonner and all those guys that played on those city championship teams. I remember them watching them play. I didn't know what was going on, but I remember watching them play.
I blame my dad for having me grow up as a Jet fan. Because why couldn't he have me a Patriot fan? Life would be a lot easier on Sundays. But I'm a Jet fan too, Coach. I think this is the year they're going to win it. I've been saying that for the past 40 years. Coach, that's an awesome take on your coaching staff. A lot to be proud of, and the future looks bright.
Very proud of them. Very proud of the men they are.
Okay, Coach, now we're going to talk 2021 Southern Regional Rams football team, this year's team. I want to hear a lot about the kids you got coming back. First, just tell everybody what you guys run briefly, offensively, defensively, and then get right into your key players that you guys are so excited about for this season.
Well, we're a split front. We're a 4-4 up front. It's allowed us to get a lot more speed on the field. In doing that, we had a run of not so big linemen, and we just felt if we went with only having to have two down men, that would make us a little bit better football team. We have some things we have to fix. There were some times that we didn't get off the field at times that we needed to last year. From a defensive standpoint, we have to work extremely hard this offseason or this coming season on getting off blocks and making plays. We attached too much, stayed on blocks a little bit too much. It's going to be an emphasis on it for us. Offensively, I hate to use the term spread because we're really a power football team in the shotgun is what we are. We're a sweep power inside zone team. We're not a true spread. We're not an air raid or anything else like that. That's not what we are. And we have to do a much better job protecting the football. We have traditionally been a team that I feel has protected the football. And last year, for whatever reason, turnovers at the wrong time were critical. We lost 3 games by 3 points, 1 game by 7 points. And we hurt ourselves down the stretch with turnovers. And we have to fix that too. So we have work on offense and we have work on defense to do. Offensively, we've got to find our quarterback. Quarterback graduated. We have 3 or 4 guys that are working out at that particular spot. Running back wise, we have a lot of kids back. We have, Jaden Brown's back, committee's back. They were starters last year. We have a bunch of young kids coming up that have talent and are going to play on either the offense or defensive side of the ball. We have four lettermen back on the offensive on the offensive line, and then 4 of those guys. Those 4 guys will rotate into 2 defensive tackle positions. So we have those guys back. Cassius and Roland and Tristan Arthur and Donovan Drew are all back. Logan Doherty. They're all experienced linemen. A lot of them have played since their sophomore year. We feel this is one of our biggest teams we've had in years on the line of scrimmage.
Great.
And they're mobile kids and athletic kids on top of that. So we've got to stay healthy there. And at the same time, we've got to develop our younger linemen coming up because we do have some good kids on the lower level. We need to establish our center. We need to establish our quarterback. A wide receiver, we have some kids back. We have some kids back there. We moved some kids. Right now in the slot, we moved a running back, Cole Levy, into the slot position. We've been blessed with outstanding slots over the last 4 years or so. They've been big players for us. We feel Cole can do the same thing. There's a lot of guys right now that are up for the wide receiver jobs. We have not done a lot of throwing this summer. So I really can't even give you a depth chart on those areas right now. We've only had 2 days of practice, actual football practice. We had a couple of days with our Ram camp where we bring college coaches in to work with the kids, but we have not done a whole lot of football. So many kids are working all the time right now. I'm sure Barnick is feeling the same thing. The demand for help, and these kids, it's hard for them to get away from work and to get everybody there at one particular time. You get 40 guys there, but you get 20 guys that are all working. A lot of them play other sports, so they had the lacrosse obligations, basketball obligations, and things like that, tournaments and things. So we backed off the football end. We got to hit that hard starting the 9th of August. We have a real tough first scrimmage. We have Woodrow Wilson from Camden, Red Bank Regional, and Colts Neck in a quad. Then we're going down to Ocean City, who's in a good run right now, and then finishing our scrimmage season with Manchester, who's coming off an outstanding year with Wilk and those guys up there at Manchester. So we've got a lot of work to do to get us where we need to be to play this schedule, as we talked about earlier. We'll get there. The coach and staff will make sure we get there. The kids will make sure we get there. But we've got to fix that turnover issue, and we've got to come off blocks and make plays.
Coach, I'm going to – you got one of the best running backs in the state of New Jersey. But that's not why you're just excited, because you have a program of kids, committee, rolling, et cetera, and all that stuff. But Jaden Brown, heard so many great things about him as a person. Like he's in town, people are like, oh, I bumped into this guy, Jaden Brown, and he's an exceptional football player, highly recruited. You're going to hear about him and all the preseason stuff out there. But as a person, that was a nice addition, him coming to your football program, being such a great kid.
I can't say it any better than you said it. He is he came to us obviously from Jackson Liberty. The family moved down here. We feel fortunate that he came here both as a player and as a person. I think one of the things that, just to give you an example of what he was, we played Donohue Catholic towards the middle of our season last year. And when the game was over, Jerry O'Donnell came down to me after the game and to say hello. And there was a bunch of teachers from Jackson Liberty that attended that game just to see Jaden play.
Wow.
And he kind of pointed me over to him, and I waved to him and thanked him. But that kid coming to our program is I always talk about, you're a good football program when your best players are your hardest workers. He is a hard worker. He's an outstanding student. He's got high character. He fits in with so many of our kids because he's similar to so many of our kids in the school. But he's done some amazing things on the football field. He's a total team player. He blocks. He tackles. He hits. He just doesn't tackle. He also hits. He's a leader on the practice field. He helps other kids. He talks to other kids during the practice time and locker room and everything else. He's very focused. He's an intelligent young man, and we're lucky to have him and proud of the type of young man that he is. And like I say, he fit so well. Because we're blessed with a lot of kids that open their books and study. and get grades and feel part of the responsibility of being an athlete as being somebody that helps people.
I know this, Coach. He looks good with a football in his hand, too.
Yeah, he does. He does.
Coach.
He absolutely does.
Coach, now we know that Jaden has a lot of guys looking at him in colleges, and I'm going to end this, too, real quickly, but you are one of the best with college placement in your football program. Now, you've got guys all over the place, Division 3, 2, 1. Everybody wants to talk Mike Gesicki, Clark Harris, and all them. They've gone into the pros. And I see they come back to your program. I love that they're coming back and helping out. How important is that to you for your alumni to come back after they've achieved all that great stuff? NFL, you got Mike Gesicki, he's an NFL guy, Clark Harris, other guys too, all coming back. How important is it to your program that they come back?
I think it's very important that they do that. None of these guys forgot where they came from. I think they all had good experiences in high school. I'd like to say I had a little bit of
a lot. Yeah.
You know that when it comes to college recruiting, the hardest part is your Division III kids. That's the hardest part because you're trying to match them up with the best financial aid program and the best situation that has a major that they want, and they get a financial aid and they have a chance to play there. That's where those Division I's, that's easy. Those guys can walk in through the door. I mean, you don't have to work real hard to get those guys placed. Right. It's the Division III kids, and most kids, 99% of kids playing high school football are Division III kids, and they have this. A lot of them have this look at Division III football like it's not good football. No. And I can relate to it. Last year that I played at Glassboro was 1970. The next time I came back to a game was 1974. So there was a 5-year period, that I never saw Glassboro play.
Right.
I don't think I would have made that roster 5 years later. I don't think I would have, and I'm not trying to make a joke of it. I'm not trying to put my, say it. I just think the talent base there jumped so much in a 5-year period because they started to go into Philly and recruit and bring Philly kids over. And the talent level went through the roofs, and they started knocking off championships left and right. And then under Bunning and those guys made it to the Division III finals. You see a Division III play, it's not what people think it is. No. Division III football, especially in the state of New Jersey, is very competitive. So there's a lot of work to be done as a coach with the Division III, and that's where you got to stay in the transcripts and the films and stay after guys and all that, but as far as the kids coming back, I think when kids come back, that's a compliment to your football program when kids come back because they feel part of something that they've been away from for years, and they still feel part of it. We get emails, I'm sure you have too, for years from kids. Love to see the coach, great game, all that, hang in there, whatever it happens to be. And I think a lot of kids remember their football experience later on in life than they do right after they graduate. I think once they get their own kids and those kind of things, and they start thinking about sports, they look back at the times they had in high school, and it matters a lot to them. At least that's what you hope as a coach.
Coach, it's funny because my wife makes fun of me all the time. She'll tell me to go to ShopRite and just get these 5 items. She'll tell me, I go to ShopRite and I go blank. I can't remember. And so I'll call her up and say, what am I supposed to get? She goes, eggs, bread, blah, blah, blah. She goes, it's amazing that you can remember Coach Gallagher's halftime speeches, word for word, recited to all your buddies on the phone for years, but you can't remember 5 things like this. So my own players would tell me, I told them that story, and they go, Coach, we remember all your quotes. And then they would tell me, well, we're not going to repeat some of those quotes that I said to you, but they do it too. So it's amazing that you listen to your head coaches, and just like your guys are listening to you, whatever you tell them, they're going to remember. It's called selective memory, right?
Oh, yeah. Oh, there's no question about it. And I think that, when they come back and they address the team from time to time and you have them talk to the team, it's amazing how many things they say that you're glad they said because they picked it up from the football program somewhere, somewhere along the way. I love when kids say to you they miss it.
It's funny because the word love is used a lot, or not used a lot. But, in our program, and I know the kids say it about you, they love Southern football and they love you. So whatever you're doing, keep doing what you're doing, Coach. You're making a lot of positive stuff in their lives. You really are. And I've had a lot of kids cross paths, from Barnegat that know you. I have Coach Covine, the new head coach at Barnegat. I mean, I had Greg.
He'll do a great job, as you know. He'll do a great job.
I've had five guys on my staff through the years that were Southern product guys that just echo great things about you, and it just says a lot about you and your program. So you don't need advice from me, but whatever you're doing, keep doing it because it's working, and you're just extending it to more players each year you coach. You really are.
I appreciate the opportunity to talk about our program.
Awesome.
And good luck with your project, and I think that anything we can do to promote the game and anything we can do to promote kids is worth the effort. So,
well, here's where you're going, Coach. The ShoreFootballReport.com is covering high school football in the Shore Conference, and you're going to have your video come out probably in 5 hours. Make sure you spread it out to your community. Give it to Coach Junior. And spread it out. Let people see what your program's all about in here. We're going to have a top views count in the top 20. See where you guys lay. Right now, it's real competitive. Manchester's leading with 500 views. We're going to have fun with it. I'm going to make Shore Conference football fun. And hopefully I get to see a lot of your games. And I know you guys are going to be successful on and off the field. And you guys are going to be real exciting to cover. So I appreciate you coming on here, Coach. I really do.
I had a good
time.
Was fun. Thank you very much, and best of luck to you.
This was fun. All right. Thank you, Coach.